Over 2,000 years ago, a general wrote a book so precise, so devastatingly effective, that military commanders across centuries refused to let their enemies read it. Today, that same book sits on the desks of Fortune 500 CEOs, professional athletes, and Wall Street traders. And the shocking truth is this: the people winning the biggest battles in modern life are not smarter than you. They are just using a strategy manual that most people dismiss as ancient history. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War around 500 BC, and it contains 13 chapters covering everything from battlefield positioning to resource management to psychological manipulation. But here is what nobody tells you up front. The most powerful lessons in this book have almost nothing to do with physical warfare. They are about knowing yourself, reading your environment, and making decisions under pressure. In the next 10 minutes, you will discover how these principles apply directly to your career, your relationships, your finances, and your daily decisions. And the most counterintuitive insight in this entire book might completely change the way you think about competition itself. Sun Tzu was a Chinese military general, strategist, and philosopher who lived during the spring and autumn period of ancient China. This was an era of constant conflict between rival kingdoms, and survival depended on more than just having the largest army. It required strategy, deception, adaptability, and an almost ruthless understanding of human psychology. Sun Tzu distilled these lessons into what became one of the most studied texts in human history. The Art of War has been translated into dozens of languages. It influenced Napoleon, it shaped the strategies of World War II commanders, and it became required reading at the United States Military Academy at West Point. But its reach goes far beyond military history. Business schools began incorporating it into their curricula in the 20th century, and today it remains one of the most referenced books in corporate boardrooms worldwide. The reason this text has survived 25 centuries is not nostalgia. It is because human nature has not changed. Competition, conflict, resource scarcity, uncertainty, and the need to outthink an opponent are just as relevant in a quarterly earnings meeting as they were on an ancient battlefield. Let us break down exactly how these timeless principles translate into the challenges you face every single day. The very first principle Sun Tzu establishes is self-knowledge. He writes that if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. That sounds simple. It is not. Most people are remarkably bad at honest self-assessment. Research published in the journal Organizational Behavior and Human Decision Processes found that roughly 95% of people believe they are self-aware, but only about 10 to 15% actually are. This gap between perceived and actual self-knowledge is catastrophic in competitive environments. In career terms, this means most professionals are applying for positions they are genuinely underqualified for, negotiating salaries without understanding their actual market value, or doubling down on strategies that are objectively failing because their ego cannot process the feedback. Sun Tzu would call this fighting blind. And fighting blind is how you lose before the battle even begins. The second major principle is the concept of winning without fighting. This is the counterintuitive insight that most people skip right past. Sun Tzu writes that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In modern terms, this is about achieving your goals through positioning, preparation, and leverage rather than direct, costly conflict. Think about how Apple approaches competition. Apple rarely engages in public price wars or direct attacks on competitors. Instead, it creates an ecosystem so compelling that customers choose it voluntarily and loyalty becomes self-reinforcing. That is winning without fighting. In your personal negotiations, this principle means building such a strong position before you ever sit at the table that the outcome is already determined. Whether you are negotiating a raise, closing a business deal, or navigating a difficult relationship, the work you do before the conversation is infinitely more important than anything you say during it. The third principle that changes everything in modern life is adaptability. Sun Tzu writes that water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. Rigid plans fail. Always. Studies of startup companies show that roughly 90% fail within their first decade, and a leading cause is the inability to pivot when market conditions shift. The founders who succeed are not the ones with the best original plan. They are the ones who can read changing circumstances and adapt without losing their core objective. This is strategic flexibility, and Sun Tzu describes it as the highest form of military intelligence. But here is what nobody talks about when they apply the art of war to business or personal development. Sun Tzu is just as focused on managing your own psychology as he is on defeating an opponent. He repeatedly warns against anger, impatience, and emotional decision-making. He identifies 5 dangerous faults in a leader: recklessness, cowardice, a quick temper, a delicacy of honor, and over-solicitude for the welfare of troops. Every single one of these is an emotional vulnerability. In modern terms, this maps almost perfectly onto what behavioral economists call cognitive biases. Loss aversion, sunk cost fallacy, overconfidence bias. These are the internal enemies that destroy more careers and companies than any external competitor ever could. Consider the business story of Blockbuster versus Netflix. Blockbuster was not defeated by a superior army. It was defeated because its leadership was emotionally attached to an existing revenue model and could not objectively assess the ground shifting beneath them. Netflix, by contrast, adapted its strategy multiple times, moving from DVD mail delivery to streaming to original content production. That is Sun Tzu's water principle in action. Shape yourself to the terrain. Do not demand the terrain reshape itself for you. The 4th principle is intelligence and information superiority. Sun Tzu dedicates an entire chapter to the use of spies and intelligence gathering, arguing that foreknowledge is the foundation of all military action. In modern life, this translates directly to research, data, and situational awareness. Before any important decision, the leaders who consistently outperform their peers do more homework. They understand market trends before acting. They research counterparts before negotiating. They study the competitive landscape before launching. A McKinsey study found that data-driven organizations are 23 times more likely to acquire customers and 19 times more likely to be profitable. Information is not just power. It is the decisive advantage. The 5th and perhaps most practically useful principle is the concept of strategic positioning. Sun Tzu talks about occupying ground that cannot be easily attacked, positioning your forces where the advantage naturally flows to you. In career terms, this is about building skills and relationships in areas where demand is growing and supply is scarce. It is about choosing the right industry, the right company, the right specialization so that the environment itself works in your favor. This is not about working harder. It is about working in a position where your efforts generate outsized returns. A decade of average effort in a high-leverage position will outperform a decade of extraordinary effort in a low-leverage position almost every single time. Now let us talk about what all of this means when you put it together. The art of war is fundamentally a framework for decision-making under uncertainty. And here is the key insight that ties every principle together. Sun Tzu is not teaching you how to be aggressive. He is teaching you how to be deliberate. The generals who win using his principles are not the ones attacking most often. They are the ones who attack at exactly the right moment, from exactly the right position, with exactly the right preparation. That discipline, that patience combined with decisive action when conditions align, is the rarest and most valuable skill in any competitive environment. In practical terms, this means slowing down your decisions, doing the uncomfortable work of honest self-assessment, building your position before you enter any contest, staying emotionally neutral when the stakes are highest, and always remaining adaptable when the ground shifts. These are not ancient military tactics. These are the operating principles of every consistently successful person you have ever admired. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Book Notes Daily for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.